I must say, comrades, that Jeff Roberts is refreshingly frank. He sets out his case fairly openly and states what has been, what Mandel has said, what other speakers have stressed, a straightforward, classical, Kautskyist conception of the road to power. Because Lenin's state and revolution was directed against Kautsky, who wanted to move to a seizure of power, who wanted working class power without wanting to confront the bourgeois state. What Jeff Roberts and what Kautsky before him and others refused to understand was the specific character of the bourgeois state. The fact that this bourgeois state depends on the alienation and separation of power from the masses, and that the only way you can challenge this alienation is not through the institutions of this alienated bourgeois democratic state itself, but by the struggle for new, qualitatively higher institutions of power. If you do not have a conception, of Soviets, workers' councils, a movement of dual power, you are not only rightist, you are also extremely bureaucratic, because you deny the independent political capacity of the working class as a class in itself to become a class for itself and to actually take the struggle forward to a seizure of power. And this is precisely what underlines every single the writings of every single Euro-communist theoretician who writes on these problems today, and which we have seen reflected in a pale and somewhat banal form in the contributions we have heard from the Communist Party members here today. Secondly, Monty referred to the splits, and no doubt he will at great length in his concluding remarks. It's not simply a question of talking about the splits in the British Communist Party today. Comrades, your entire movement is split. Moscow is split from Peking. A discussion between two fraternal parties resolved at the level of border clashes on the Ussuri River. Why is there a clash, a border conflict between Cambodia and Vietnam today? Why is that? Precisely because of the nationalist regression of the Stalinist movement internationally. And when, to reply to Comrade Aronovich, Mandel does not say, no Trotsky says, and Trotsky himself did not say it, and I challenge you to give me one single quotation from Trotsky where he said that by proletarian internationalism we mean the crude, vulgar Stalinist falsification, every revolution happening everywhere at the same time. To Trotsky you must give credit in his writings on Western Europe, in his writings on Germany, and episodically on France and Spain, of understanding the specificity of the social formations which he was trying to analyze. And you can't say, yes, his writings on German fascism are good, without trying to understand the political and theoretical basis which underlay these writings, a critique of the line of the Communist International. When we say we are for proletarian internationalism, we mean that any move towards a working class revolution in any country of the world must be aided with all means necessary by the working class of other countries. We say that during the Vietnam War, the Italian communist parties and the French communist parties, mass communist parties, should have organized dock strikes, should have organized factory occupations to prevent any aid being delivered to the Thieu regime in Vietnam. That is what we mean by proletarian internationalism. The last 2 points I want to make are the following. It's all very well for Comrade B. Campbell to give us lectures on women's liberation. Sorry, Comrade Campbell, our movement has been discussing this problem long before it was raised in any single communist party in this country, and we will continue to do so. And hopefully, Monty in his concluding remarks will give us a description of the brilliant, heroic, magnificent struggle for abortion rights waged by the Italian Communist Party for the last 20 years. perspectives, comrades, are wrong, not simply because they are Kautskyist, they are wrong because they are unrealistic and they are impractical. They will not lead the working class forward. Does anyone seriously imagine that communist perspectives for the Communist Party of Great Britain, gradual growth for the next 50 years when we will have a left Labour government and possibly a sprinkling of communist MPs, it's not on. It's not on. You have an extremely dogmatic, preconceived notion of the way in which British politics will develop. And the reason you have this preconceived notion is because you refuse to give any weight to the character and the nature of the economic and social crisis in Britain itself. If the Labour Party loses Scotland in the next elections, we could have a completely new ball game. A completely new ball game in the national political life of this country. And if you're talking about winning votes, to be perfectly honest, let's compare where we fight. The votes gained by far left, or what you call ultra left candidates, and one of them is, a couple of them are in this hall, are not so different from the votes gained by the Communist Party. In some cases, they are larger. And we will say to you, comrades from the Communist Party, this. We re-stress what Ernest Mandel said. Despite our differences, despite our disagreements, we are very happy that debates like this take place. We should have more debates, more systematic debates, more political discussions. Let us discuss socialist democracy. Let us discuss the right of inner-party democracy within the communist parties. Because Carrillo and Monty Johnston are very eloquent about democratic rights, but they refuse to institutionalize in the Constitution the right for parties and factions to exist in the Communist Party itself, which leads to splits. We don't know how many members of the Spanish Communist Party support Carrillo. We don't know how many agree with his book. We don't know how many discussions take place. These are extremely important questions which we should continue to discuss. On questions more related to Britain, certainly we are for united action. We are for united action in fighting racism and fascism, which is a growing threat in this country. Despite disagreements with your tactical line, we are for the broadest possible unity of anti-fascist forces, because our strategic aim remains to have 50 to 60,000 trade unionists confronting the front, which will reduce all risks of physical attacks and violence. That remains our strategic aim. We are for having serious discussions in the trades unions, for the development of class struggle tendencies to combat the betrayals of the bureaucracy. But you, comrades, we have even to argue with on the very question of whether a bureaucracy exists or not, because George Anthony, a leading militant of your organization, denies it. There is no such thing as a bureaucracy, which is precisely why you cannot explain the behavior of Hugh Scanlon. You are forced to explain it in a personalist way, as if Hugh Scanlon's somehow gone wrong. We are extremely confident. Our movement has grown. Nowhere we don't claim we are the sole repository of the truth. We claim we have a lot to learn from many, many people. But I'll tell you something. In the development of pre-revolutionary and revolutionary situations, we will all have a lot to learn from the only social class capable of leading such a revolution to victory, the working class, because it is classes which make revolutions and not parties or individuals.